Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and as I'm sure you're no doubt aware and very sick of hearing about, I recently took a trip to Europe, and specifically in this case I went to Portugal. I stayed in a city called Porto, and while I was there I hit up a game store called Press Play Porto. I've already done a tour video on that place, which I highly recommend you go and check out, just so you can get a good sense of the location. That's a really cool game store. If you are ever in Porto, I would definitely recommend that you check that out. It seems to be like the definitive go-to game store. But it's unique in a sense because it wasn't just a game store. You know, like I went there to pick up stuff. But while you're there, they also have a lot of other things. You know, they specialize in all types of gaming, not just buying things, but also actually hosting like little tournaments and stuff. They have a lot of kiosks set up that you can play. They have a big tabletop section. They have a lot of events that occur there. It's kind of like the all-purpose game hub if you are in Porto. And if you are, I know I actually have a lot of people from Porto, surprisingly, who watch this channel. So if you've never heard of Press Play Porto, check it out. And if you are ever in that town, definitely go there, because Portugal's not a very big country, so even if you go to Lisbon, which is like the biggest city, it's only like a 3-hour drive north to Porto, so if, you know, assuming you are up for that. But yeah, man, if you are ever in that area, I would definitely recommend Press Play. It's definitely something to keep an eye out for. You might want to figure out like if there's a special event going on that you're more interested in going there for, as opposed to just going there as a game store. But even as a game store, it was pretty cool. So that's the only reason I really went there, was to see what kind of cool games I could pick up. And I did get some. This first pickup was very surprising to see, and very fortunate. It was like it was just like the planets aligned. I think I was just supposed to find this. While I was in Portugal, I released a video about how to play imports on a Sega Dreamcast, like the most efficient way to do that. Now in that video, the long and the short of it is, I recommend using a disc called Codebreaker. It is region free, it will work on any console, it will... Codebreaker is basically like Game Shark, like a cheat disc device, but it also has the bonus feature of allowing you to play imports. But on top of that, it also allows you to force boot certain non-VGA compatible games into using VGA. Now, I'm not going to go off on a whole side tangent here, but VGA, well, it's a little bit of a tangent, because I always do that. VGA is the best way to get video quality out of the Sega Dreamcast. It looks absolutely phenomenal. The VGA box I would recommend is one called the Hanzo. Well, I want to say something about the Hanzo that I should have said a long time ago. There's a guy who helped facilitate my acquisition of the Hanzo. His name is GeorgieOrgy2, put his username right there. Hell of a nice guy. He was the one who put me in contact with BaharBros.com and helped set up that whole thing. And I meant to mention him in every video in which I talked about the Hanzo, and I kept just fucking forgetting. I screwed up, my bad. But now I want to say thank you to him. It's a long overdue thank you to him. Anyway, what I picked up was something like Codebreaker. I picked up this. This is Exploder. This is actually the European equivalent of Codebreaker. It's literally the exact same disc, it's just called Exploder. They just renamed it for whatever reason. Rather than being distributed by Pelican, who was responsible for Codebreaker, a company called Blaze is the one who distributed Exploder. But again, same disc. So I actually didn't own a legitimate copy of Codebreaker. I just was using a burn disc, which I'm very opposed to using burn discs, but in that one instance I was okay with it because it's a really expensive disc. But Exploder, which was just sitting there, was actually, they tossed this in for free, and now I have a nice, complete, legitimate copy of it, which is really, really cool. And it works exactly the same way. You know, it's region free, so I can pop it into a North American console, no problem. And it does the same thing. You know, it'll actually activate codes if you want, and it'll also force boot, again, with the Hanzo. So, and any other VGA box. So, really cool to have that. And of course, I don't get the chance to pick up new Dreamcast stuff very often, just because I have most of it. I know, first world problems. But yeah, nice to have that, especially for free. That was really cool. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you was pretty awesome, because until I saw it at this store, I did not even know it existed. Like, I had heard about it, I had read the possibility of it. It was always a rumor. It was one of those things on the internet someone claimed once and you never really believed them. But then I saw it there. And I went, wow. And the thing I'm talking about is a very specific Sega Master System game. Now, Sega Master System had a crap ton of exclusive games in Europe. So much so that I never even considered trying to pursue a bunch of them because there's just too many. It would have been impossible. When I saw this one in Portugal, I knew immediately that it was rare because I had done a little bit of research, and you'll see why in a second. You know what? Fuck it. I'll just show it to you. Sonic Spinball. Now, I'm sure you're sitting there going, like, especially if you are one of my fellow Americans or even a Canadian, you're probably like, why is that rare? Who gives a shit? I see that all the time on the Genesis. Who cares? Yeah, the Genesis version is super common, and as common as dirt. The Master System version, exceedingly rare. As far as I can tell, this was actually only released in South America. If it had a release in Europe, it was very limited. What the woman working at the store in Portugal, Press Play Porto, she really knew her shit. She was on top of things, and she was pretty sure this had actually come from Australia, but she couldn't even confirm it. The only place I saw evidence that this definitely came out was South America, or I should say definitely, because I didn't even, until I actually saw it, I wasn't even sure that that was definitely true. But the only places I ever see them like online now, because I did a lot more research after I actually found it, just to see how much it was actually worth, which you should look up, by the way. Most of the copies were coming out of South America, so I assume this is one of those late tech toy releases that only Brazil got, you know, that kind of thing. But somehow it made its way to that store, and they actually gave this to me for free as well, because of the other stuff I picked up, which you'll see in a minute. Yeah, so very happy to have this. Holy crap. I mean, first of all, I really like Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, most of us do. I assume, even if you claim you don't, you probably really do, or you would if you played the right ones. There's a lot of shit ones, let's be honest. But I knew through that research, because I tried to collect all the Sonic games at one point, I knew that Sonic 1, Sonic 2, well, Sonic Chaos had all been on the Master System. But I could only find whispers that this one had actually been released. So to actually find it and have it is just awesome. It's really, really awesome. So there you go. Because I think I had seen like ROMs of it at one point, but I always assumed they were like fan-made, you know, like nothing that was ever actually placed on a cartridge. But there it is in the flesh. This is no surprise at all. This is the Sega Saturn Photo CD operating system. I actually mentioned in my tour video that I had picked this up, so there's no surprise whatsoever. This is something I did not expect to find or see or even knew about the existence of until this is, again, all the planets aligned. When I was over there, again in Portugal, I released a video about the Sega Saturn VCD card. And I had realized at the time I made that the VCD card actually gave the console additional photo CD applications, but I never knew what that was for, really. I didn't know how that actually worked. And then lo and behold, this store had like a few copies of this, very, very cheap too, which was nice. And I decided to pick it up. So I'm just going to read the description of what this is. This Sega Saturn Photo CD playback facility allows up to 100 standard 35mm photographs, both negative and slide, to be viewed via the Sega Saturn and the Photo CD operating system. Your photographs take on a new, exciting, and wholly professional identity. Features include 3 zoom levels, a choice of special effects, random and customized selection, variable speed slideshow, flip, rotate, mirror, and spherical images. In other words, it's just like photo software. Which is, you know, obvious based on its name. But it's just neat to have, and to have that card with it, you know, I wasn't expecting to find this particular PAL exclusive. It wasn't even on this list that I keep waving around in every one of these damn videos. But yeah, getting it was just a really cool bonus. And it even says, like, right on it, it's from Portugal, you know, so that's really cool. The reason they were willing to hook me up with some of this free stuff is not because of any videos. They actually, that all happened well before I even asked for permission to shoot a video. The reason that happened is because I was looking at the Sega Saturn stuff, and I picked up a game, and I'm just going to show it to you. It's a very rare Sega Saturn game that I was pretty surprised to see. It's called Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster. Now, to any Sega Saturn enthusiast out there, you'll know that this is a relatively uncommon game. Not super rare, but rare. They had this pretty reasonably priced. All things considered, I think it was like 50 euros, and that's like $65, maybe $70, which again, you know, you're like, that's a lot of money for a Sega Saturn game. Like, yeah, and yet, not that much when you think about how much some of the rare stuff on the Saturn is. This is not by any means a great game. This is like one of those FMV adventure games, kind of like the Sega CD. Vampire Mike, Sega CD Universe. You'd probably really like this game. It's just one of those type of games, and the actor in it is actually Tim Curry. Now that name may not come to mind immediately, but trust me when I say every single one of you, maybe only a handful, possibly don't know who he is, but the vast majority of you have seen his work in something. Whether it's Nigel Thornberry, if you're young enough to remember that character, or the meme, or just, you know, the clown, or he was the dude in Scary Movie 2. You know, he's in a crap ton of stuff. I guarantee you've seen something with him at some point. But yeah, I picked that up, and they were unable to negotiate on this, because the way this store works is that the store is run by multiple people. And they go out and they find game stuff to bring to the store. And the games will be labeled, you know, they'll be sealed in some kind of plastic case or whatever, and then it'll have a price tag, and it'll have some sort of blue or green or red or whatever indicator on it, which identifies to them who the store representative is that picked up the merchandise. So if you are not the representative of that merchandise, you actually have no right to lower the price on it. Does that make sense? So the woman who was in there that day was unable to negotiate the price on this, but she was able to say, like, you know what, I can just toss in these things. But you're still probably thinking, like, okay, that's a lot to toss in for just this game. Why would they have done that? Again, if it's only like 50 euros. Well, it wasn't just this game, all right? Now, the thing I picked up next was a shocker. A total shocker. See, I went up to the counter with these items, right? And they looked at them, the woman looked at them, and she could tell, because I was picking up this game specifically, that I must be into the Sega Saturn. Not just because I did obviously pick up this as well, but the reason she knew I was into the Sega Saturn was because I picked this up. A game that is relatively expensive, you know, not for Saturn stuff, but like compared to some of the more normal things, like this was like 3 euros, you know, it wasn't that much money. Whereas this is, somebody's willing to put down like 50 euros on something like this, there's got to be a reason. And it's not because this game, you know, kicks ass and I have to experience the adventure of Tim Curry's Frankenstein through the eyes of the monster. It's not because of that. It's because this is a collectible game. So that tells her he might like to see this other game. So she's got, you know, you saw in the video, hopefully, there's the front there with like a glass case, right? That's where they usually put like rare items. Then of course there was the regular area where I got these games. This thing she showed me was not with the regular games, and it was not with the glass case. She only took this out because because I was picking this up. Are you ready? Are you ready to see this? Some of you will know what this is. Some of you, probably most of you, will be like, what is that? But here we go. She just presents this. Swagman. Oh yes. Swagman is an extremely rare European exclusive Sega Saturn game. Now you can see here it's in this plastic case, alright? Like these are the type of cases that they were keeping all the games in. I took the price tag off. Well, actually there wasn't even a price tag on it, because it wasn't something they were traditionally trying to sell. I think they had either just gotten it, or I don't know what the deal was, but she, like I said, she just kind of pulled it out and was like, we have this. Now here's the deal. She, I believe, was the representative who actually had this game, so she was actually able to make a deal on this one. So I want you to go ahead and take a second and look up this game on eBay. It's a very expensive game. I know I'm only giving you about a second here, but trust me when I say it's an expensive game. It usually goes for about $200 as a used copy, right? Even in not good condition. She was willing to sell it to me for I think it was 100 euros. She was asking more like I think it was 150 or 200, something like that, and she was willing to knock it all the way down to that. And I obviously was like, you know, because that's a lot of money. But at the same time, I know how rare this is, and I know I'm not going to get a better deal on it anywhere. And, you know, I obviously was going to pick this up already, and I was going to pick this up. So she couldn't make any sort of deal on these, but she said, you know what, if you buy this for, I think it was 100 euros again, she's like, I will throw in these. Now, the price of this originally, I think, was only like 4 or 5 euros, but they wanted like 40 euros for this. So that's a pretty big savings, all things considered. And she was like, if you want it for that collective price, then this is yours. And obviously I went for it because I'm holding the game. But the thing that finally sealed the deal for me, that at the same time totally kills me and depresses me in a certain sense, is actually that this game is sealed. And I know you're looking at the plastic case here. I'm not talking about that. On the side there, there's actually all European Sega Saturn games had a piece of tape around the edge to kind of hold the case together. Some more obviously like these shitty paper cases, but even these plastic ones had a piece of tape just together. That way you know that it was verified as sealed. This has that. This is a sealed, factory sealed copy of Swagman, one of the rarest games on the console, yet in minty fresh condition and sealed. So the price she was asking for was substantially less than this is probably worth, because even acceptable condition, it's worth more than she was asking. So sealed, I think I really would have been an idiot to pass on it. But at the same time, I don't collect sealed stuff. I never have. I open everything. I keep it all open. Even I told you before when I met up with Shen Yuso, my friend Ben, and he gave me a sealed copy of Virtual League Baseball for the Virtual Boy, and I told him, if you give this to me, I will have to open it. So I gave it back to him, and he gave me a loose card. But with this, I'm actually really torn, because it would be really stupid, I think, to open it, wouldn't it? Don't you? I assume out there you're like, fuck you, this is such a stupid first world problem. You're right, it is, but it's still a problem. So, what to do, what to do? What I'm kind of thinking is, it might be better to sell it and then buy a used copy, if that makes any sense, and then keep the extra cash, assuming that that proves to be profitable. It very well could, I don't know. But yeah, so that is this is probably the premium pickup of the entire European trip. I thought it was, at first I thought it was going to be body count because of how cheap I got that for it, but relative to what it's worth. But this one, because it's sealed, who knows? I mean, there can't be that many sealed copies of Swagman left in the world. But yeah, anyway, it kind of looks like, I have not played it ever, but it kind of looks like Knights on, like a horror version of Knights. But that's again without ever having played it. I'm completely basing it like on this cover, the two little kids and this like nightmare dude. But yeah, I don't know. The back doesn't really look like that, so it's probably a completely wrong analysis of it. But anyway, I was incredibly happy to check this one off of my list, as well as the others. So yeah, that was my exciting adventure at Press Play Porto, a store I would definitely recommend checking out if you're ever in that area. Even if you're not into collecting games, just to go and have a cool gaming experience. It's really just a neat store. It's very relaxing, a lot of fun, and you can certainly meet a lot of cool people. Tips to non-Portuguese citizens: most people in Portugal speak English, so you wouldn't even really have that problem either. Most people, not everybody, especially the younger ones all pretty much do. So there you go. But anyway, guys, that is the end. That is the end of this European tour of game stores and everything. I hope you've enjoyed it. Contrary to certain comments I've seen, I did not go over there to just game hunt. That would have been insane. I wish I could have done that. I went over there on like a family vacation, and I got to have the luxury of being able to go to a few game stores while I was there. Obviously more so in the UK than in Portugal. But number one, yeah, I wanted to go and do game hunting while I was there. But really, I wanted to film videos for you guys so you guys could get a sense of, other game stores that are out there. Maybe ones if you're ever thinking about visiting that area. Hey, holy shit, I can go check out that game store now. Or if you already live in the area and you just don't know that those game stores exist, now you do. So, in a sense, I really did that for you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed it to at least some extent. And yeah, man, that's really the end of this series. I think this ended up clocking in, at around 3 hours. There's a playlist. You can go watch it. It's like 3 hours worth of European tour footage, if you include me sitting here telling you about my tour. But whatever, who cares? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you all later.